How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Now today is a big day for Battlefield 2042. We actually got a lot of new information from this developer interview that took place today. It was about an hour long and they just sat down and talked about the gameplay, talked about different features that are going to be in the game. Now they didn't show off any new gameplay, they just sat in chairs and just did a one-on-one interview. But they did reveal a lot of new information today. So in this video I'm going to do a bit of a breakdown of some of the new information that we learned. So towards the beginning of the interview, they revealed some new information in regards to playing against the AI, playing against different bots and stuff. Apparently you can play by yourself solo. And this is a pretty big deal because people that are new to Battlefield can just play against bots to sort of warm up. Maybe you just don't want to play online. Maybe you're just having nothing but bad luck and you just want to play against some bots. Maybe you want to practice your skills. But the fact that they're adding bots could be a good thing and a bad thing depending on how you look at it. It really depends on how balanced the bots are. If the bots feel like real people, then I think that's a good thing. But if the bots are just really dumb and they just don't feel that smart, comparable to like a Star Wars Battlefront 2 bot, then I don't think they're going to be that fun to play against. But EA released information on their website after this interview went live, sort of giving a little bit more of a breakdown of the interview. And they said that they are introducing AI to the series as a multiplayer only experience. It's important for us to let you play Battlefield 2042 when and how you want. Here's what that looks like in the all-out warfare experience of Conquest and Breakthrough. For multiplayer, there are AI soldiers used for server fueling capabilities, ensuring your matches remain full no matter your location. So obviously, if these matches are going to be 64 versus 64, sometimes you're going to find a lobby that just doesn't feel that populated, or maybe a certain area of the map doesn't have as many people as a different area of the map. Maybe the city is more populated, but as you get towards like the edge of the map, maybe there's not as many people battling out in like the desert area or something. And the bots are going to do a good job of sort of filling in the gap to make it feel like there's something always going on. Maybe there's this random objective on the edge of the map that people just don't like to go to. Well, if you go there, then maybe you can fight some bots, get some points, get a couple kills in or whatever. Just so there isn't a bunch of just roaming around endlessly on these gigantic maps. If the server is dying off for some reason, or maybe people backed out on the previous match, they want it to still feel alive. They don't want you to just roam around with nothing to do. But they're also adding a co-op mode. It says allows you to play together with friends against AI soldiers. So this is like with Star Wars Battlefront 2, they added co-op. You and your friends can get together, you don't have to worry about playing online, and you can just slaughter some AI together. That's always some good fun. Like I said, if you don't want to play against sweaty players online, or if you just don't want to worry about any of that, you just want to sit back, relax, and play with your friends and just enjoy killing things in Battlefield, well, then there you go, you can play co-op. And if you don't have any friends, you can also play solo. They said if you wish to perfect your skills for multiplayer, you can even play alone against AI soldiers. So if you want to practice your skills, just want to test out some new weapons or something, you can always just turn on some bots and play against them by yourself. So I welcome this idea. I think this is a good change to the Battlefield franchise. Like I said, I just hope the bots seem actually pretty smart. I hope they're not dumb as a rock. If the bots feel like real people, then I think that's a good change.
Yeah, I mean, AI has been one of those things that we've been kind of, cooking back at DICE for many years, and Battlefield 2042 is kind of the perfect timing with next-gen tech to introduce it. So in Battlefield 2042, you can actually kick off the game and play solo with AI squad members on a whole big team with AI members facing AI. And that's just a great way to kind of learn the basics of the game, mastering weapons, understanding how the vehicles and gadgets work, and kind of from there then graduating into a mix of both with like real humans in PvP and AI. And it's just a really good way for us to onboard new players, but actually even in regions where sometimes we don't have enough players online on the servers, we'll just fill that up with AI until everyone comes online, and we can have those servers full with only in Battlefield Mayhem 24/7. So it's pretty cool.
So up next, they went into detail about some of the maps, talked about the map sizes, talked about the weather effects and stuff. And some of the maps in this game are so unbelievably large now that they have sectors instead of just regular command points. Like in previous Battlefields, you would just go capture A, B, C. Now there are actual sectors, and in these sectors, there's multiple points to capture in a sector. So if you go to Sector A, for example, A might have 3 different capture points in A alone. That's how big A is going to be. So if you want to capture all of A for your team, you have to capture all 3 points. But if you capture one of these bigger areas, that's obviously going to help your team win more in the long run. The bigger areas are going to be worth more than like the smaller areas, for example. And some areas aren't going to have as many capture points. Some of the sectors on the map are only going to have one objective. You capture that one objective and then you own that entire sector. And then they went on to talk about just how big the maps are in this game compared to some of the other large maps in other Battlefield games. This is the best way they could visualize it with these little squares. Like the dark gray square is what the old map size would be, and then the light colored bigger square is just how much bigger the new map is in comparison. Now, they did say that there are some smaller maps in this game. I would imagine they're going to take different sections of these bigger maps and break them down for the smaller game modes like Team Deathmatch or whatever. But based off of this chart alone, it really gives you a good idea of just how massive these maps are going to be. And I mean, they kind of have to be. If it's going to be 64 versus 64, that is a lot going on. And I hope it's just absolute chaos the entire time.
How much of a scale increase have we gone for on some of our maps?
There's not like a general number we've said, like, okay, they need to be 2 times or they need to be 4 times or something like that. We just, for same, kind of staying true to the formula of Battlefield in the sense that some maps are smaller than others, but across the board, things have increased in size because this is the nature of having 128 players and needing to kind of accommodate for that in terms of pacing. So it has grown in size, but we still have maps that are smaller than for Hourglass, for example, is one of the bigger ones we have. I think it's the second biggest one, next to Irreversible, which is the biggest one we've built, and I think that one is 5.9 square kilometers, which is quite insane.
And then they went a little bit more into detail about the map specifics, the weather changes, different parts of the environment that can change just as you're playing. Said it took them over 3 years to develop the weather system in this game. They had to completely change the Frostbite engine to get it to work. So they've been working on these giant tornadoes for quite some time now, which I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we've worked for a good 3 years now on some of these new weather and evolution systems. I remember in that first pitch when we talked about the game, maybe it was Daniel, maybe it was someone else from the design team said, like, wouldn't it be cool if we could throw like a real-time tornado onto the battlefield that could turn everything kind of upside down and cause massive destruction? And I think everyone's sitting there kind of nodding. We looked over at the tech team and they're like, oh, are we supposed to make this work? And then kind of a year later, we had that first prototype. And I remember us showing it to other team members like, okay, but that's pre-rendered, right? It just has to be fake. Can't look that like that. And we were like, yep, it works.
And then they went on to say that with the tornadoes and with the weather effects and different changes to the maps and stuff, it's not going to be the same copy-paste weather effect every single time. If there's a giant tornado, it's not always going to follow the same exact pattern. Maybe it'll go left or right or straight up the middle of the map, and sometimes it just won't spawn at all. It's completely up to random. That way it doesn't feel cookie cutter. Every time you play on a certain map, you would get the same exact weather effects. They want it to be completely random, so if you play the same map 3 times in a row, for example, all 3 times you play it should be a different experience.
You don't know where it's going to go. It doesn't go in the same path every time. You don't even know if it's going to show up, to be honest. And it just causes a lot of those, unexpected fun physics moments.
And then there's a bunch of stuff scattered throughout the maps that you can change just to affect the environment, such as bridges and doors and gates that you can interact with and change. You can close gates or open doors to open or close certain vantage points. If there's a drawbridge, you can activate the bridge to cut off any vehicles from coming across the bridge. There's just a bunch of different things like that that you can interact with on these maps to change the environment and just change the way that the game plays. I hope that there's a lot of this scattered throughout the maps. I hope it's just not in 1 or 2 places, but I guess we're just going to have to wait and see.
And I mean, we mentioned all the zip lines. There are different types of gates and doors that you can lock down. There's bridges that you can raise, that you can lower on Kaleidoscope, for example. So we really leaned into the dynamic nature of the space and make it feel like you can interact and you can counter different type. Oh, there's an attack coming. Oh, I'm gonna raise the bridge, so now their vehicles can't actually pass and stuff like that. So I think the team has done a really great job with that stuff.
And then they gave a little bit of a breakdown about the specialists in this game. They said at launch you'll be able to play as 10 different unique specialists, with a lot more to come later on. And that actually sounds like it's a decent amount. They've only showed us 4 so far, so there's a lot to choose from at launch, which that's good to know. That way you can switch it up, play around with the specialists, see which one is your favorite. And they went on to say that the specialists are now put into categories. Like in the previous Battlefield games, they had different classes. They had like the specialist, the recon, the support, the engineer, like different classes, and in those classes you would be tied to certain specific weapons. Well, that's no longer the case. Now the specialists have their own categories, but once you pick that specialist, you can use any weapon that you want. So for example, if you choose the medic, you can use assault rifles, SMGs, LMGs, DMR, shotguns, sniper rifles, pistols, and then you can mix and match any sort of gadget or equipment that you want for your character. And then they said depending on the weapon used, you can have up to 4 categories for customization: your scopes and sights, muzzles and barrels, ammo types and magazines, and your underbarrel attachments. And then you can change all of these on the fly in game. So say you have a mid-range scope and then you suddenly go into a building, you can just hide behind a corner, change your scope to a close range scope, maybe put on a laser attachment because now you're indoors, and you essentially have a completely different loadout right there on the fly. You don't have to worry about redeploying for a different loadout, which is really, really cool.
So the specialists are... So let's take a step back, I think, first, because we looked at this for quite some time in terms of what we wanted to do here, and we looked at a lot of player data, we looked at feedback, and we looked into like the internal sentiment. And there was a lot of things we can also see through the data specifically, that a lot of players chose their class based on the primary weapon that was available. Meaning you didn't choose necessarily a recon because of the gadgetry, but you actually chose a recon because you got the bolt action sniper rifles. And you didn't choose your class because you wanted to play a certain role. So that was the thing we wanted to kind of target with this change specifically. We wanted to bring the game into a space that when you choose which specialist to play with, you go like, okay, I want to play this particular role. So what we've done is that basically you have the traditional class, say recon, is more of a category now. And underneath that category, you have multiple specialists that has a gameplay role that is a recon gameplay role.
And then they went on to talk about the different gadgets and stuff. It says, while every specialist has their own unique specialty, like McKay and his trusty grappling hook, classic Battlefield items will be accessible to every specialist, including the C5 explosive, anti-tank mine, and frag grenade. But a Battlefield game wouldn't be complete with some new hardware. We'd like to introduce you to Ranger, an agile and mechanized companion that can be called in to faithfully follow you into combat. And then they show off that little Ranger robot. It's like a robot dog. And apparently this is a gadget now, so this will go with any class, and you can equip this little robot dog and he will follow you around and shoot things for you, basically just acting like a bodyguard. And then they briefly touched up upon the vehicles. It says also new to Battlefield 2042 is the vehicle call-in system, which allows you to airdrop vehicles to wherever you are on the map instead of spawning into them. This system will allow you more freedom than ever before when it comes to navigating Battlefield's massive spaces and terrain in search of a tactical advantage. We're also going back to Battlefield's roots, where you could once again find vehicles on the battlefield instead of activating them from the deploy screen. So you'll find vehicles randomly scattered throughout the map, which I'm all for that. I think that's a good idea. I didn't like in other Battlefield games where everyone would just sit in the menu screen and constantly just spam the select button hoping to beat the other person out when it comes to vehicles. So I do like the idea of spawning in vehicles in wherever you are, but they haven't gone into detail yet just how you can earn the vehicles. We don't know if there's a battle point system like in Star Wars Battlefront, for example. I hope that isn't the case, because like with Battlefront 2, whatever the best class is for getting the most points is what everyone's going to pick. So if a certain specialist earns points faster than the other specialists, then I feel like everyone's just going to pick the best specialist, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see for that. And then they finally touched up on some Battle Pass information. They talked about how all the Battle Passes have a free version, so if you're just playing the game, you don't have to spend any extra money and you can just earn stuff by playing. And then if you want some of the cosmetics that are in the Battle Pass, you can spend some extra money and unlock some of the different cosmetics and stuff. But they said all of these specialists coming to the game and all future maps are going to be free for everybody, so once you buy the game, all that future content will be included at no extra cost. So that's good to hear.
Most importantly, we want to make sure that we take the best of the learnings we've had from the likes of, say, Battlefield 5, where we can keep all our players together.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big decision we made really early on in the project. We don't want to split our community in any way when it comes to gameplay content. So all of the new locations we'll head out to in part of the live service, free for everyone as part of that. And then we are introducing a battle pass as part of our seasons. We've announced 4 seasons as part of the first year. Every season will also come with a specialist. The Battle Pass system has 2 tiers, the free tier and the premium tier, and all of your gameplay hardware you'll of course find in the free tier, and in the premium tier, cosmetics and stuff you can use to express yourself across vehicles, weapons, and your specialists.
But that pretty much sums up all the big bits of information that came from this developer interview. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. I'm going to be covering a lot of Battlefield 2042 here in the future. This is one of the games I'm most excited for this fall, so I'm definitely going to cover it on the channel, and I'm going to be streaming it on Twitch. So if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, follow me on Twitch at SwanyPlaysGames Live so you guys don't miss out on any of my live streams. And that is going to do it for me, guys, and I will talk to you all in the next video.